will you not execute judgment on them? For we are powerless before this large crowd that is coming against us, and we do not know what we should do, but our eyes are toward you. Yes, clearly, even though he had made arrangements, Jehoshaphat recognized that this was a problem that was too big for him. We're powerless. Well, as he does for his faithful people, Jehovah here in this instance, in verse 14, sends the prophet Jehaziel to provide this announcement to Jehoshaphat and the people. Verse number 15, he tells them to pay attention. Here's what Jehovah says to you: do not be afraid or be terrified because of this large crowd, for the battle is not yours but God's. Verse 17, he says, you will not need to fight this battle. Take your position, stand still, and see the salvation of Jehovah in your behalf, or as the footnote tells us, or see how Jehovah rescues you. So Jehovah told him to stand still in faith, to trust in him, and to see that he would rescue them. Now, interestingly, that standing still did not mean inactivity. How do we know that? Well, verse 18 tells us, at once Jehoshaphat bowed low with his face to the ground, and all Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem fell down before Jehovah to worship Jehovah. So they continued in their worship. Verse number 20, we see that Jehoshaphat even went out of his way to encourage his brothers. At the end of that verse, he tells them to put faith in Jehovah, your God, so that you may be able to stand firm or endure. In verse number 21, it says here, after consulting with the people, he appointed men to sing to Jehovah. So he put other practical things in place. And of course, the account ends as we would expect. Jehovah proves true. The enemy nations defeated themselves. In this case, Jehoshaphat, the people, they didn't need to do a thing except stand still and see the salvation of Jehovah. What's the point for us? Well, maybe right now you're facing a problem that simply is too big for you. Despite your best efforts, your best plans, you're facing something that's too big for you to handle. That's okay. It's not too big for Jehovah. But what do we need to do? Well, according to this account, we have to stand still in faith. That does not mean inactivity. No, instead, it means we do what we practically can to help the situation. We maintain regularity in our worship, Zoom meetings, participation in the ministry, encouraging one another's. And then we simply wait and see how Jehovah's going to either help us out of the situation or at the very least help us to endure. Isn't it comforting to know that when we do our part, Jehovah will do his? Just some examples that demonstrate how Jehovah's word gives us comfort as we go through various trials today. Let's quickly consider a third way Jehovah gives us comfort. Turn to Psalm 61. Psalm 61, verse number 1. Says, hear, O God, my cry for help. Do pay attention to my prayer. From the ends of the earth I will cry out to you when my heart is in despair. Lead me onto a rock that is higher than I am. Well, we get comforted through prayer. The ability to simply talk to Jehovah is comforting, to pour our hearts out to him. That process in and of itself provides us with relief. Even when no one else understands us, Jehovah does. Even if we're isolated from others, we're never isolated from Jehovah. But Jehovah here promises more. You see, these are the words of David when he was fleeing from Saul. He was living in what the Bible calls the rocky places, hard to climb. Well, can you imagine David singing this song, looking at a point on a rock that he knew physically he couldn't get to, asking Jehovah, please lead me onto a rock that is higher than I am, a place of safety and security?